Hi, welcome to
Movie Review TV. Movie Review TV.
I'm Aldwyn, Altuney.
And I'm Michael Thompson.
And today we're going to be reviewing a very powerful film called The Promise. Now, what's this film about, Michael?
I'll tell you. Empire's fall, love survives. When Michael, Oscar Isaac, a brilliant medical student, meets Anna, Charlotte Le Bon, their shared Armenian heritage sparks an attraction that explodes into a romantic rivalry between Michael and Anna's boyfriend, Christian Bale, a famous American photojournalist dedicated to exposing political truth. As the Ottoman Empire crumbles into war-torn chaos, their conflicting passions must be deferred, while they join forces to get their people to safety and survive themselves. The Promise is directed by Academy Award-winning filmmaker Terry George.
Now, before we go on to talk about what we thought of the film, I think it's very important that you know a little bit of background of what this film is actually covering, because it is based on true events.
They need to know it.
You need to know this. And I was shocked when I looked up these statistics myself. I didn't realise how bad the situation was. Now, I've just got back from Turkey myself. And I had parents that were born in Turkey. I have Greek and Ukrainian heritage. So part of my heritage was actually affected by the genocides that happened. So in this particular movie, it's focusing on the Armenian genocide, which is also known as the Armenian Holocaust. Now, this was the Ottoman government's systematic extermination of 1.5 million Armenians, mostly Ottoman citizens within the Ottoman Empire and its successor state, the Republic of Turkey. Now, it started on April 24, 1915, which is the day that Ottoman authorities rounded up, arrested and deported 235 to 270 Armenian intellectuals and community leaders from Constantinople to the Ankara region, which is the capital of Turkey. Now, most of these were eventually murdered. The genocide was carried out during and after World War I and implemented in two phases: the wholesale killing of the able-bodied male population through massacre and subjection of army conscripts to forced labour, followed by the deportation of sick and frail women, children and the elderly, with death marches leading to the Syrian desert. Driven forward by military escorts, the deportees were deprived of food and water, and they were subject to periodic robbery, rape, and massacre. Other indigenous and Christian ethnic groups, such as the Assyrians, so people from Syria, and the Ottoman Greeks, were similarly targeted for extermination by the Ottoman government in the Assyrian genocide and the Greek genocide. And their treatment is considered by some historians to be part of the same genocidal policy. Now, between 1915 and 1918, 750,000 Assyrians, 500,000 Greeks, and 1.5 million Armenians were killed by Ottoman Turks and Kurds in a genocide that nearly destroyed the Christian communities in the Ottoman Empire. Such a powerful film, Michael.
Yes, and not a lot of people know about that information.
No.
And they should know about it. Just think about it, 1.5 million Armenians killed in the Ottoman Empire.
Massive. 750,000 Assyrians killed, 500,000 Greeks killed. What? Just because they were Christian and they didn't have the same religion. This is where I say religion is exclusive, whereas spirituality is inclusive. Personally, I believe there's one God, and I think we just call it different names. That's my belief on the whole thing of religion. And I think more wars have been come from religion and from fanatic beliefs that have come from certain religions, that it's so sad to see this kind of thing happen. So unnecessary. It was a really, really moving film. In fact, absolutely epic film, I would say, Michael.
It definitely was, yes. Absolutely enthralling historical epic it was, basically. And it went for a good, was it 2.5 hours, just about? So, and it's well worth sitting through if you get the opportunity of seeing it. And as I said, it's an important part of history that not a lot of people know about, the Armenian genocide. And they should go and see this film to find out for themselves.
Mm.
You know, and so and the actual the genocide starts in 1915, I believe. So it's during World War One. Is when they start getting killed.
Now, it is similarly epic to Gallipoli, you were saying?
Yeah, it's similar to Gallipoli and those sort of, you know, historic films, historic war films, Platoon, etc. And it definitely shows you some of the gruesome acts that were committed by the Turks, doesn't it, Aldwyn?
Yeah. Hacksaw Ridge was another one with Mel Gibson recently. I was at the premiere in LA with Mel Gibson when that came out. That was another powerful movie. This one really, the cinema.
Braveheart maybe as well. This compares in terms of an epic scale film.
Absolutely,
it certainly does.
So moving. You come out of the movie and you just kind of go, wow, you know, I have nothing to complain about in my life. These people were subjected to such torture-y, unjust behaviour, robbery, basically kicked out of their homes, and many were murdered, and those that weren't murdered and that got away were injured and deprived of food, and it was just, it looked absolutely horrendous and would have been so hard to go through that period. It's actually really atrocious what has happened in history with some of these leaders, you know, really very, very sad.
And the mass murder actually took place under the cover of the Turkish government, saying that they're basically, you know, moving the Armenian people from one location to another. In other words, they're being exiled. In other words, so they actually got, that was just an excuse for them to wipe the Armenians off the face of the earth, basically.
To kill
them. So it was under the cover of the Armenians being deported.
Yes, that's right. And the Turks refused to admit that they were killing the Armenians. They just said they were moving them on and basically completely lied about what was really going on. And I mean, why you'd want to kill them just because they have a different belief? You know, this is crazy. It's crazy behaviour and it just needs to stop. It's happening right across the world. People get so righteous about their religion, about their beliefs, that they think anyone who's not in their religion or their beliefs is, you know, needs to be killed and wiped out so that, you know, they can be the only religion. Well, it's just ludicrous. It's outrageous. It needs to stop. And, you know, this movie really is a great depiction of what happened in the time. I mean, obviously it was dramatised with a bit of romance and, you know, it was kind of Hollywoodized, I guess, you know, and had you know, the romance element through it and the drama through it, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say it was exaggerated really much at all. So I have to slightly disagree with you. I thought it was pretty realistic, actually, throughout the whole production, and so it didn't sort of exaggerate any of the. It wasn't really exaggerated any of the romance.
Well, it was based around this romantic story
and the historical, you know, details about what happened to the Turkish people.
Well, it was Hollywoodized, right? It was Hollywoodized. So they focused on this romance. The romance was the central theme of the movie, and that kept you wondering what was going to happen with this romance, which ended up being a three-way romance in the end. We won't give away too much detail. But, you know, all that romance would have been, you know, not based on true events, I'm sure. I'm sure that specific part of it was very Hollywood, and, you know, to have that element through it. However, I would say the drama of the killings and how that happened and the lies and the deceit that happened, I would say that looked pretty real to me, and I'd say that kind of thing would have happened at the time. Really, really sad.
Because it could actually, you know, be considered almost a documentary, even though it was obviously fiction. It wasn't really fictionalized in any way, was it? But it sort of comes across as being like a documentary drama, if that makes any sense to you.
Well, it really was very powerfully done, and there was so much cast, so many people involved. And some of those scenes where the Armenians, you know, were going across, you know, trying to flee for freedom across Turkey. You know, some of those scenes, there's so many actors and extras and people involved in those scenes. It would have been huge to just put some of those scenes together, and I thought it was really done well. I thought the cinematography was brilliant. I thought the acting with the lead actors, so Oscar Isaac, we had Charlotte Le Bon and Christian Bale, I thought was extraordinary. The acting was brilliant with the three main cast.
Well, Christian Bale plays the American, you know, the American photojournalist.
Yes.
And so maybe that sort of appeals to you, Aldwyn.
Yes.
I know that you're a photojournalist.
That's
so
right.
I know you've been in maybe situations where you know, have to go over to a foreign country or something like that and do some reporting. Or somewhere where you haven't been before. You know, you just have to go there for work.
Well, I also like to report on the truth. And what happened in this film is that there was the threat of Christian, or Chris, he plays Chris in the film, of Chris actually being killed for speaking the truth. And this is the thing, is that people are silenced in the world to not speak the truth, because due to fear. You know, they're silenced with fear. And I think it's time that more people stood up, and because there's a lot more of us than the few that are leading the world, stood up and said enough is enough, and the truth needs to come out, the truth needs to be heard, people need to speak their truth, and it's about time that all these atrocities stopped happening, and that people, imagine if the whole world, if everyone just spoke their truth.
And the first people like that, they actually rounded up, the Turkish government. The first Armenians they imprisoned were actually the intellectuals, weren't they? The creative people, the smart people.
That's right, exactly.
Weren't they? So they tried to get to the core of basically the Armenian people right from the beginning. Yeah, yeah. So they tried to tear it apart by taking the influences away, which is what has happened so many times. We've seen Martin Luther King get killed. We've seen JFK get killed. These are thought leaders, right? I believe Michael Jackson and Prince were killed personally. There was Princess Di. Well, there were other reasons also. I believe she was killed. I mean, it just goes, you know, John Lennon, imagine, you know, there's so many people that have disappeared over time that have been thought leaders and influencers in the Western world too, that we've seen over time. And, you know, for some reason, the evidence just goes missing on who really killed these people, what really happened. They call it drug overdoses, or the accidents. Well, I beg to differ on those things. Well, as I said, it's a must-see film because it's an important part of history that more people should know about. And I'm sure that they don't.
I'm sure they don't too. And in fact, being over in Turkey, I actually met a woman who was Armenian, who's now based in America. Her background went to America, and she said that she had land in Turkey that she could never get back. She never got the money from her land with her ancestry in Turkey, because the Turkish government never accepted that it was their land. So the Turkish government also just took a whole lot of land that belonged to Armenians that they worked really hard for, and basically took the land from them as well. So the ones that did survive, they had no rights to come back and have any claims on any land as well in Turkey. And this is just literally a few weeks ago when I spoke to this lady. She actually said to me, you have no idea what happened, you know, with the Armenians, how the Armenians were treated. I know a lot of Greeks have left. My background's Greek Orthodox. A lot of Greeks were also pushed out of Turkey or killed. I know there's 2 million Greeks now in Melbourne, so a lot of them have gone there. But really, you know, in the name of religion and fanaticism, I believe, this genocide is just so sad.
So it even carries over today, some of the political feeling does it behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are people in Turkey that are still afraid to speak up against the government. There's people in, I would say, many countries that are actually afraid to speak up against the government. And, you know, this is... It's fear-based, and it's trying to control the population. And, you know, we need to get, as David Icke says, that we are infinite consciousness as individuals. And the more we step into that and stop being like sheep in society and just believing the mass media lies or believing whatever the government wants us to believe, and actually start making our own informed decisions from our own research, the more that the world will be a better place.
Well, I really love the film, and I could almost give it the maximum amount of stars.
Okay.
I'm actually giving it 4.5.
Yeah.
Which is because it was really powerful and gripping.
Yes. And
it told me, you know, information about the Turkish government and the Armenians that I didn't previously know about, that I personally should have known about.
Well, we're learning all the time, aren't we? I certainly learnt a lot from this film, and I agree with you. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I could give it 5 stars, although, you know, for a long movie, it really did keep my interest the whole way through. I thought at the beginning they're a little bit slow at the beginning. I give it 4.5 as well. I think absolutely must watch this film. If you get a chance, definitely go and see it. It will really wake you up to what actually happened in Turkey, and will make you realise how lucky we are now to not have that kind of thing going on, to that extent now. And we can learn a lot from history, so I think it's important to actually understand a little bit of history to understand where the world is at now.
So go see it and get informed.
Yes, get informed.
An important part of European history. So
absolutely. So here's cheers to the makers of The Promise. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
Excellent effort. Absolutely epic. The trailer has actually had 4.4 million views now on YouTube, the trailer for The Promise. So obviously the community and people are getting behind the movie. So cheers to the makers of The Promise. Well done. And if you are watching this, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
If you like what you've seen, then please add a comment under this video or share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the Aldwyn Altuney channel. And we would love to connect with you again. If you have your own opinions that may differ from ours, which you probably do, we would love to hear those too. So love to get your feedback and connect with you. And we'll be back soon with another episode.
We will. And what's the Movie Review TV motto?
Of Movie Review TV, which is moving you at the movies.
And you'll be moved by seeing this.
You will be moved by seeing
drama,
this.
I'm sure. So,
you will. Very, very moving, very powerful. I was actually crying at one point. Did you? I thought I saw some tears with you too, Michael. Actually, I thought I saw. So take tissues and enjoy. Very, very powerful, very moving, and a beautiful love story woven in between. So enjoy, and we'll be back soon with more of Movie Review TV. Bye for now.